8:30, 8:29.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I assume you guys peeked at the agenda. Any changes or additions?
Can we have an item under, right after City of McIntyre, item 11, county care grant? Making progress on that, and, but I need to discuss some of that with you.
That's fine by me. You okay with it, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. All right, can I get a motion for this? Well, since we gotta make a change, do we need to make a motion?
Yep.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept them as is, except for the addition of the county care grant under number 11,
So
after
moved.
11?
Seconded.
All right. Roll call,
Just all in favor.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I say in favor too, so agenda is approved. And I know Casey, were you gonna get on next week?
Yep.
Okay. And the minutes, did you guys look over the minutes? I need a motion on that too. I know Lowell made any corrections that I noticed already.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes and the claims.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Steve,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
any further discussion?
You have to vote.
Okay, and aye for me, thank you. With no further discussion, the motion is carried. And Sheriff Greg Beaver, would you come up, please?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Morning, Sheriff.
Good morning.
I think these are for the county roll, some tax statements.
I didn't share.
I don't have a whole lot for you this morning. Jail's empty, actually, and we got Floyd County bringing us some people tomorrow. And it's court service day today, so we'll see what the end of the day looks like, but that's given us an opportunity to clean all those cells, paint them, do some maintenance stuff on them, so it's not a bad thing, I guess. Probably a good thing that we have an empty jail in Mitchell County, but anyway, that's where that's at today. Couple things that are going to take place in the future. I don't know if you followed what the governor announced end of last week about the state developing a app reporting system for our students in our schools to make hopefully make the schools safer. They can report acts of violence and threats that the students know about. That's the same thing that we already have
I
here
was
in
gonna say, I
Mitchell County.
think you mentioned that, yeah.
And so we reached out to the governor's office and the commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. Looks like we're gonna get a meeting with those folks the end of February. So we'll be able to present what we've already done. I think it's something that they can use.
Well, sure, you can give input, yeah.
And so governor's looking at over $2 million on funded for this service that they want to provide, and we already have it. So there may be a cost savings there to the state if they
That'd be
like
cool.
what we have, and we can collaborate with them and use what's already
Well, yeah,
been
experience.
developed. So we're gonna try and make that happen the end of this month. Let's see, there's one other item, but I guess it escapes me right now.
Well,
You'll start to see some bills for the training that we're gonna have in June. The one bill was $11,000 that we talked about. However, also if you look at my monthly reports, we're selling those seats, so there's been $3,200 come in and returned back to the county, so we anticipate another $4,000, so their overall training cost is gonna come down to about $4,000 when we actually get to it in June, so. Other than that, I don't have anything for you guys unless.
I have something for you. County Social Services met, and I believe this is where this has gotta be where I got that from. Maxine,
Mm-hmm.
in case you can make use out of that, has to do with, is that for people that have used
It's for
meth?
heroin overdose.
Oh, heroin,
Yep.
okay.
We've carried it for almost 3 years.
Long time, okay.
Yeah, yeah, we saw the need for it about 3 years ago. We get it at cost through the hospital.
Good.
And so,
I figured they had it, so I didn't bother giving them
yeah,
one.
we were kind of ahead of the game. We can get it free now. That wasn't the case when we first started to purchase it. So it does have a shelf life, so it's good for a year. And the deputies have administered it, I think, on 3 occasions and
Really?
made a difference. So, yep, we have it. It's
Okay, good.
it's good, but thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's all I have for you guys this morning. If somebody here has questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. So,
Thank you kindly.
all right, thank you guys. Have a good day.
Have a quiet week.
Rich Brown, County Engineer.
Richard, good morning.
How are you?
Good.
I'm working on trying to close out the wind tower road agreement with the wind tower people. I've been reviewing potential increased damages to the hard surface roads, specifically Indigo, where the quarry was. There's been significant increases in cracking there. I know that we've had some crossings they haven't repaired yet from the crane crossings. I've got that all billed out. They haven't reimbursed us for the rock yet. We were gonna try to do this in one big lump sum. I'm trying to finalize out some of the numbers. Right now I'm about $550,000 worth of reimbursement, but I haven't added any of my time into organizing that, so I think they should be paying for some of that. I mean, they're the ones that kind of tore everything up, and now I'm the one that's gotta pick up the pieces and scrape it together and put an estimate together so they know.
Well, it takes time.
But it does, and I know they wanted to close it out before the end of the year. It just wasn't in my schedule to get it done that quickly, so. But once they get the number, they want it to be completely done, so I wanna make sure that we're not left holding the bag if something were to change or we find other things, so. So we're working on that. And also, we are getting our last loads of salt in this week, so hopefully it kind of takes it easy on us for the remainder of the season, because it's getting
Nice right now.
We've been mixing more sand in with the salt, but sometimes that isn't always beneficial to us, so. I think that according to our snow policy, we've gone above and beyond what we're required to do, and it just keeps getting that way every year. I think we put a level of service out there that people are expecting now, so. We don't require a bare pavement like the DOT does yet. That's what we're giving them every snow event, or we're trying to anyway. Usually things are burned off pretty quickly, so, and that takes money and that takes material, so. We're running out of materials, but hopefully we can make it through the season, so. Anything you guys wanna discuss? I know that, we still got DOT budget and stuff to work on, and I haven't been officially billed by Howard County yet, but a couple years ago, they replaced the box culvert on Addison Avenue, with local money. We haven't been officially billed yet. We were trying to work out some other things, and they had some other small projects, but I know that's gonna be touch over $100,000, which hasn't been budgeted. I had it budgeted for when they built it, but then we never got billed, so it kinda fell off the radar, but we're gonna need to try to close that project out with Howard County. I'm gonna kinda do it this year, so it's not just dragging along, cause they've already paid for the project, so, there is a need to pay for that too. So, I'll be putting that in the 21 budget also, for the state. I don't know that it got put in there, kinda got forgotten about until he and I discussed some things here a few weeks ago, and we both remembered that it was still on the back burner, so. We'll figure out some funding there too. It'd be nice to get paid for. They use local money, and we can't use anything but local money on it, because it was let locally. If we wanted to use farm to market funds, they would have had to have let it through the state, so. And that was the agreement we had with them, back in whenever this was signed. 2011 is when we had the 2080 agreement signed, but the project was delayed several years on their part, so. Anyway.
Yeah, couple, 3 weeks ago again, when Jeff Heil was here, he mentioned that, again, we should be thinking of some projects for our TIF money because our balance is gonna get, considerably lower. And, for us to utilize all of our TIF money, we should have projects. Otherwise, we just give it away to other organizations and that. And this last summer, we did talk to you about, did you have a need or, and that of doing some things here again because, and where are you at with?
The one thing we discussed was our concrete patching. We have several locations that need patching, and the number I came up for patching on that, on pretty much all of our roads that need it, that weren't related to the wind tower, and then also doing a, what I call a pressure relief joint to allow movement in the pavement. That total was around $450,000, $455,000. And mind you, that's, you know, that sounds like a big number until you spread out, you know, over the years the concrete's been down, some of that's been down for 10 years now or more, so it's kind of a span of 10 years. You know, it's not a bad number to look at if you look at it per year of maintenance, but that, and then along with, well, that's something that we'll need, and I was thinking also that because it's local money, I think that if you guys were gonna borrow TIF, it'd be good to use TIF money to pay for the other half of that box culvert project on Addison that we owe Howard County for. I know we used TIF on that paving project when they paved it. They used, I think they used TIF on their half, we used TIF on our half. So I mean, there's another 100,000 and change, and I know that they've had a couple other bridge overlays that they've put down that they haven't billed us for yet either, that they're gonna be a smaller amount, but I'd say if we had $150,000 for Howard County to pay back what we owe them, we've got some billing to send out for some smaller multi-pipe repairs along Addison south of Riceville that we need to square up with too. We're both so busy, we just never get to sit down and look at the numbers and get things finalized, but you know, there's a good chunk of money right there to look at too, and as well as any kind of gravel road repairs. Jim and I have been trying to work on this data that we had collected for us in summer, and we just can't get it to work, so we know there's a lot of locations out on the gravel roads that need repair. The data that we got isn't working for the software we have, at least how it's collected and how it's being put back in, it's tracking something totally different than what we wanted it to track. So, but we do have options for repairs on gravel roads. It's a matter of what we have for lengths and where we want to start. We won't, and I don't feel there's any way we can repair every gravel road in 1 year, in 5 years. There's so many miles of it that, and then the question also is, were the repairs or were the damages due to specifically frost boils, which is a problem periodically, or was it a isolated incident of just everything bad happening at once? Heavy loads, wet roads, thawing, everything happening at once. Is that the real cause of it? And now we're just kind of picking up the pieces, because after everything was settled, everything dried out, roads got back into shape again. So what are really required repairs, and what are things that we can do to maybe help give our roads a little longevity, a little bit more strength? There's plenty of options we have out there. They range from $16,000 a mile to $328,000 a mile. The $16,000 a mile is roughly, that's per square yard per mile, or that's not per square yard per mile. That's per mile cost of, I think, just over rocking, you know, adding more granular surface to a road. But that's a large quantity of rock put down. The $328,000 a mile, that's totally rebuilding a gravel road. That's taking and coring it, putting a macadam base down and choking it off with a shoulder stone, which is extremely high. I mean, you want a good gravel road bed, that's what you gotta pay per mile. But, I don't think we're in that situation. Our roads, most of our gravel roads, there are very few that carry 100 vehicles per day. I don't know if there's even 10 miles that carry that. Probably only 5 or 6 miles that carry 100 vehicles a day, according to the DOT vehicle counts. There are counties in the state that have 300 vehicles per day and they're still gravel. So, but on that end of things, there's still things that need to be done as far as trying to reinforce them. So, to give you guys an overall number is difficult with not having the data that we had. You can inflate it to however you want. I mean, we could say everything is centerline tile at $4 a foot. Well, that's gonna be a few $1 million to try to do every road and not every road needs it. And that's not the cure for every road either. I think you get a tile in there and you start getting a freeze thaw, that tile starts moving, then it starts holding water, then it doesn't drain properly, and pretty soon, within 5-6 years, depending on the location and what's being driven on it, it fails. And so, I know that there's been some stabilized research out there from the Engineer Service Bureau and Iowa State, and one thing that they have is the best rate of return on a road for a simple type drainage project is to, and we've done before, is cored holes and drilled holes and put clean rock and capped it off. That's got probably a 1-year return on it. You guys have a hearing or something?
Yeah, we do at 8:45.
Well, I mean, we have numbers, we have a use for some money, I guess. Even if, if we could get some funding for the patching and the relief joints,
And you said $455 of that,
and then,
$150 for Howard County payback,
yeah.
and then
And then if you guys wanted to throw more in and
some
make
extra
it,
for the longevity
make it a
stuff.
cool million, I don't know how you wanna do it. I mean, we could use, whether we use it all in one season or not, it's gonna get used
Okay.
on road
We'll have
repairs.
to
Well,
give
it
some
can
thought
be
to
carried
that.
over, so.
Yeah, you can carry that money over as long as they're been defined as the use, so.
Okay, we'll give that some thought, yeah. All right, thank you.
That's all I have, unless you guys wanna discuss anything else, but I know you guys are
No, we're
chomping at
pretty
the
much
bit. That's
time
fine,
here.
I've got
Okay.
other things to do too, so.
Okay. Great.
All right, thanks.
Well, thanks for some numbers, that's
Yep.
helpful. Okay, we're gonna open the public hearing, 8:45, for ordinance number 51, establishing the voting districts in Mitchell County, Iowa. Before we go on here, did anybody receive any oral or written comments considering this?
I have not.
I have none.
And we really didn't have anything the time before either.
I didn't either.
Yeah, thank you all. So can we go ahead and do number 6?
No, you have to ask the public.
Oh, okay, all right. Does anybody have any comments from the public as far as the voter districts that were made up? Anybody have anything to say, or? Okay, all right, well, what we want to take, because this is pretty much a done deal, I mean, it is a done deal, so we have the option of actually waiving the first and second readings.
You have to close the public hearing
I have to close to do that?
before you
Oh,
move forward.
okay, all right, we'll close the public meeting for that section of it. And then now I can do the consideration? Okay,
Have,
Well, since the two of you have never done, I don't believe, the
No.
ordinance before, what normally happens is if the public has concerns in that, then we have 3 different readings of the ordinance. If the public normally does not have any concerns, we waive the first and second readings, which otherwise it goes 3 different meetings. We have to
Right.
hold, but as long as nobody has any concerns, we waive the first and
Yeah,
second
and they
readings, and then
really
we go
have
right
it
into
for
the third to
weeks.
pass it.
right,
And so I would move to waive the first and second readings.
thank you.
I would second that.
All right, roll call, Stan?
Well, you should ask, on
Oh.
this type of thing, you should ask for discussion, even though there
Even now.
probably isn't any. but-
Okay, all right, I'm guessing there's no discussion, but if there is, go ahead and speak up.
No, it's just for us, not
Just
for the
Okay.
public.
All right. And you guys, I'm assuming don't have any. So can I do
Yep,
the roll call,
Yes.
Stan? As far as,
Stan said yes.
oh, okay. And I say yes,
Small guy.
and Steve was aye, so, the motion is carried then. Okay. And then, we should go ahead and the actual approval of it. Do you want us to read this? Would that be appropriate?
I don't know if it's necessary.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
It's here, if somebody has to see it.
Yeah,
It just basically defines all 5 districts. And it's, the previous ordinance number 45 is repealed by this ordinance. The ordinance will be effective once it's published in the newspaper. So the next would be to ask for a motion and a second to approve the ordinance number 51.
okay, guys, can I get a motion for that, approving ordinance 51?
I so move to approve
Okay, a second?
ordinance 51.
second?
Okay, roll call,
Aye. Smaller.
Stan,
Aye.
and I for myself. Any further discussion on this? I'm assuming no, so motion carried.
Gotta have the discussion before the vote.
Okay,
I mean,
oh, technically, you're saying I should have
Well,
asked for that
technically,
It's
first.
legal.
Okay, all right. I guess I thought we did. Sorry, I'm messing this up. Okay, and then, do we have anybody here for the Mitchell County Hospital request? I assume somebody's going to be coming, so we'll go skip past that. How about foster grandparent program?
Not yet, they'll probably be here
Okay.
a little later.
Is Tony in here? Okay, Mitchell County Economic Development.
9:30, fostering grandparent will be here.
9:30, okay.
Maybe here early.
Sure.
Good morning.
morning.
Good morning,
Hi, Tony.
Our request for the budget has not changed from last year. I'm assuming everyone had a copy of the.
I have one
budget.
quick question. When did you actually start?
When did I start? 15th of last year. January.
Of January, though.
Yep.
That's what we were
So
trying
do
to,
this every year.
okay.
So like I said, our budget request has not changed. Just want to give you a little update on where the program sits as now. Last night, we actually approved the latest request for incentive. We received it too late to get it on Lowell's agenda, so we'll put it on the next agenda. But with that one, we probably still have around 300,000 left from last year's allocation to roll over into this year. One thing we discussed last night was the possibility of changing the program slightly to maybe be able to help encourage other residential developments in the cities. Making some funds available that could be then used to reimburse, say, the city for putting in utilities or something like that. So we're looking to see if we can't utilize our program to help development of lots as well, and not just houses as well. So we're just starting that discussion. The suggestion was possibly to add $5,000 to the amount that could be given, with the understanding that that money would be a pass-through to go to the developer, be it the city or the developer that did put in the utilities or the streets. So help offset the cost of developing new lots utilizing our program. So just starting that discussion is a possibility. We also looked at the possibility of using that money to help pay for the demolition of dilapidated buildings, to open up infill lots in the cities as well, to be able to put new homes on infill lots as well. So that was one thing. The city of Osage particularly is looking strongly at doing demolition of houses to create infill lots.
And so by doing that, you can have a lot for a new house a little bit cheaper than you could for a new development, And I know that not all cities have that option, but that's one that the city of Osage is looking at pretty strongly as part of the development. In our discussion last night, they said that they felt like they have enough residential lots to most likely not need to do any new developments. Although, had a meeting with Joe Myrie last week, and there is a developer that has some interest in working with small communities to develop some residential developments. So I'll be taking a questionnaire to all of the city councils in the county and offering them an opportunity to work with an outside developer in doing residential developments. And so we'll have to see how that works. The Papa John Center has indicated that they would be willing to help find investors for these. The question is going to be at what cost to develop these lots. And so that's where the questionnaire comes in, how much cities are willing to help put in infrastructure, utilities, streets, and what the requirements would be. But it would be helpful to bring in some outside money for development. So we're hopeful on that. So I hope to be able to get to all of the city council meetings within the next month to get their level of interest and to fill out some applications to help with that program. So, and the other focus that we're going to have this year is on marketing. Last year, we received a grant from the FEMC to produce some videos to use for promotions. I was Stan had said he didn't remember me presenting those to this board, and I apologize if I hadn't mentioned it.
I guess I remember.
Okay, I was hoping, and I told Stan I may have just not been clear enough when I did, but anyway, we do have 3 videos thus far.
Travis maybe helping, and you talked about some other option.
Right. And those are the ones, but they are available on our Facebook page for people to be able to view now. But actually today I have a meeting with Koloff Media to start a more aggressive marketing campaign using those. And then we are also, we have one more video that we want to make with Travis. And we're hoping to focus on summer activities at the lakes in the area and on the river, outdoor recreation type things that we want to build a good promotional video. The thing that we're keying on in our promotions is including people with stories and, putting faces on who we are. The 3 videos that we have thus far, one was focused on a baseball mom and the advantages of living in a small community. The second one was our new doctor in the area, talked about their process of coming into the area, what they liked about being here, all of the things that went with that. And then the third one was a small business owner in the area. It was a Limestone Brewery, talking about the advantages of small community, why they're here, how they liked it, and all the things, and put a face on Mitchell County. And so we want to be able to carry that theme through on the next video. But then we've received a grant for this year to really push the promotion of those videos. The new person that we have hired, Tracy Church, as our administrative assistant, has a lot of experience in social media, marketing and the like, and I've been very, very excited to work with her. Some of the ideas that she has in promotion are beyond my capability. This generation.
She's going to be helpful.
Yes, they understand that the whole idea of social media way better than I do. And Stan and I were talking a little bit about how to utilize these videos, and we're not really looking to create like flash drives or anything like that. The but the Farm Bureau used that method. I don't know what success they've had, but today's technology allows us to put that video out in digital form and people can download it at no cost to us. So rather than go to the expense of creating hard drives or actual hardware, we're going to try to utilize technology and help people to be able to download, utilizing YouTube, utilizing Facebook, utilizing Twitter, all of those aspects.
That's the ways now.
It is, and just try to leverage technology to get our message out. When we did these videos, part of the intent was to have the businesses use them. And so we're in the process now trying to evaluate how much it's been used by the businesses, if they've had any success.
They should.
They should, and when we came out, when each of them came out, we made sure to send them a direct notice, each of the HR people in the industry, and to say, they're available here, please use them, free of charge. So, well, I'm anxious to hear back from them, if they've had any success, or how much they have used them, and if they have used them sparingly, maybe encourage them to use them more.
They want more workers. That
Yes.
could really be helpful.
And if you haven't seen the videos yet, I encourage you to see them, and then share them with if your friends or groups, repost them. Really, with the social media, that's the best way for us to get out, is for individual people to repost, like, all those fun things. And I know you and I, Steve, were like, what?
Dinosaurs.
It's just not our thing, but thankfully, we've got some young minds that really do understand it and are working with it. And again, Travis has done a tremendous job in producing the videos. They're some of the highest quality videos I've seen. I enjoy looking at YouTube videos and watching and learning things. He does a very good job. We're very blessed to have him in the area, and he does it at a reasonable rate. So we're very, very pleased. So. But that is going to be one of the focuses that we have this year, continuing with the housing program and then with promotions. So, they said today we got a meeting with Koloff Media to put that together, and also I have a meeting with the Windworth Betco Economic Development Director, and her marketing assistant is going to come, and we're going to try to do a little brain session to try to come up with some new ideas, maybe even do things cooperatively. So that's going to be our focus this year, is getting housing continued up, but really focusing on marketing is going to be the biggest thing that we're
Is that
focusing
with Beth?
on. No, it's with Melissa.
I don't know her.
Okay, yeah. No, Beth is with Forest City.
Okay.
So she's a good resource.
I used to know her a long time ago.
Yeah, well, she's still a good resource. And for both Melissa and I, we're both relatively new to the area, and she's been really good.
Well,
about
she's
helping
been at
us.
it a long time. I mean, that was a long time ago when I was at the
Yeah.
chamber, and she was.
She was probably the first one that took me under her wing here to get me to know everybody, introduced me around.
Good for her.
Yeah, she did a tremendous job, and I'm very, very, very thankful for her efforts, so.
Well, the one area that I keep thinking that we're missing the boat on, and that's cost of living versus the standard of living. And most people really don't realize that you can have a high standard of living with a low cost of living. And your younger people, they basically look at, well, how much can I make? Can I make this much money? And if I make more money over here, that's a benefit. Well, that isn't necessarily a benefit, because $15 an hour here in Mitchell County might be the same for a standard of living as $23 an hour in Minneapolis. You get the same standard of living with 23, and yet again, if they're making $20 an hour in Minneapolis, they think they're improving, and they're really going downhill. They're not going uphill, they're going downhill. And this is one thing that I really feel that our schools are letting us down on, and the younger people just really don't understand those two concepts of cost of living versus standard of living.
Right, well, I know you and I have had that discussion before, and I do know at least one of the videos, it does reference that to a certain degree, and I know you're thinking, you're feeling we need to be more upfront with it. And so I think with the next video that we do, I think we can work more of that into the video. Like I said, our focus is in trying to put a face on it, and so having whoever is doing that to be able to convey that in an effective way, we can work on that, because I agree with you. I think that that's one of our strengths here, so we can work on that. I think we can.
Well, and part of what you were mentioning on housing, St. Ansgar's had a problem here with another subdivision, basically. They've had, it's gone back and forth for quite a while, and with really no progress. I talked to Bodensteiner on the Osage City Council, and he said 5 years ago that Osage was thinking about, again, that they should be having a new subdivision here, and he said the ball got dropped. And but that is one thing, again, that when you mentioned about in the housing thing, that probably could benefit a lot of cities in that. I mean, the same with Riceville, Stacyville and that. If we did help with some infrastructure for a new subdivision, I wouldn't do it all, but I sure would consider doing some infrastructure to, again, to get these subdivisions up and running.
My goal was to try to figure out a way that we could utilize our current plan without having to alter it drastically and still keep, but utilize the existing money that we have
Well, we
to
could
do it.
That's what
But I mean, the
that's
other
what
one is
I'd
up
like
to
to
you.
see, is,
Because,
because
I
you
mean,
haven't
this-
even dipped into the next amount yet.
Right, right, and that's why I figured, well, we've had some money that you've already allocated that hadn't been utilized, and if we could utilize our program to help incentivize that, that would be a good thing. In our meeting last night, we talked quite a bit about that. Stacyville has a development now that they're ready, that they have places for. Riceville, they didn't really feel like they had an area that would 100% fit, although all of them did want to talk with, meet with me to discuss this deal with Joe Myrie. But just in our discussions, and Barb, correct me if I'm wrong, I was thinking that Stacyville didn't really feel like they would probably be interested, but wanted to look. Riceville was pretty much in the same boat.
Yes.
Osage felt like they probably had enough lots and they wanted to focus on infill lots. And that probably the one that had the most interest was probably St. Ansgar.
Correct.
Okay.
But keep in mind, various contractors that are willing to spec have always said that they're not willing to spec on an infill lot.
Well, I know, I've had discussion with Tim Schultz, particularly in St. Ansgar, and their infill lots may not be exactly what we're looking for. Their lots are smaller and probably not as attractive. However, in Osage particularly, their lots are bigger in standard size and are gonna be more attractive. And they're in neighborhoods where you get rid of the worst house, it's probably gonna be attractive enough that they probably wouldn't have a trouble. But again, that's their focus, they're looking at doing it. So I think each town is gonna have a little different scenario.
But again, what was explained is that a new house in a new subdivision will bring more money than that same house in on a infill lot.
Right.
And so if you're doing specking as a carpenter, and that's your philosophy, you aren't gonna be specking on those
Right.
infill lots.
Well, and again,
That's all I'm trying to.
No, I understand, and in discussion with Tim, I know, that really is his perception of it, but there are other contractors that I've talked with that think that they do maybe have an idea of how they can use infill lots and build on and be economical. So there is a difference of opinion, even from contractors, of which way to go.
I noticed that.
So, I mean, and I don't disparage either one, but I think, and maybe that's the reason St. Ansgar is as interested in doing new development. I mean, their situation is different.
Well,
And in talking with them, I think there's some ways that we can.
you really only have two contractors though in all of Mitchell County that do specking. One in St. Ansgar and one here in Osage.
Well, there are some others that are looking at it now. So in our conversations, and I don't want to speak for somebody, otherwise I'd say their names right now. But I've talked with some other smaller ones that are considering it.
They're finally considering specking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was encouraged by that, and there's some new, fresh ideas and maybe some new designs and some in St. Ansgar, just because of the way the sound was laid out.
Well, regardless, you and I were at a meeting last Thursday at Mason City where Debbie Durham was the main speaker and so on and so forth. And again, the two big takeaways from that meeting was that Sarah Gordo too, housing and workforce. That was the two big takeaways that, and so we gotta keep our eye on the ball here, and like you say, we gotta continue to push for housing here in Mitchell County, and when we get more housing, that gives more opportunities for workforce.
Right.
I mean, the two are related.
Yeah. Well, that was one reason I was excited to hear about the program that Joe Myrie is promoting. So we'll have to see, you know, it may not come to any fruition, it may not be something that will work here. We don't know until we try. But when you have all the different players stepping up to maybe bring some other assets to the table, I think it's a good thing. especially if the Papa John Center is interested in helping bring investors to small towns, which it's always an issue of having someone with deep enough pockets to have the patient money to put into a development. You know, that doing land development is a time-consuming process. But, you know, Stan, you know, you don't put that in and get a turnover in a month. You know, it just takes time. So,
Okay.
excited to hear some possibilities coming in, so.
Now, his request, do we vote on that today or put it in with a mix of everything else?
With the mix.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what I expected.
Anything else you wanna add?
Well, I'm just really excited to have Tracy on board. If you get an opportunity to stop in and say hi,
I'm
I
excited
think
too.
she's gonna be a great asset for us.
Well, again, I would like to see you attend more of these meetings to give us updates on what is actually happening so that we're all in the loop and
We'll do that. No problem.
Okay. Sounds good. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Can Rachel
Okay, we're gonna-
go over the fund balances right now?
Yeah, or we've got the hospital people here
Okay.
too. And
Rachel said,
is Rachel's pretty quick fast?
It's up, I mean,
Because,
Okay.
yeah, because technically.
Let's let Rachel come, then she can get back upstairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't-
Well,
go ahead.
we had the TIF money, it got received into the wrong account. So we did a transfer, but it's not gonna post until month end. But tried to do it manually, and when the general fund end balance will be like 366,000. I wanna confirm after month end that is the correct amount. That's all I really got.
Oh, okay.
so you're saying that the total balance at projected June 30th of 2022, that would be the end of,
2021,
pardon?
it'd be June of 21.
No, that would be this year's.
No, well, I'm working on the budget for next year, so like 2021.
Right, what I wanted to find out is next year's budget, that we're getting all the information from right now, the expenses and that. And we should know what the income, projected income should be. What is gonna be our ending balance June 30th of 2022. So at the end of this next budget that we're working on, what is gonna be that ending budget? So that we should know whether or not we should be cutting anything, if we're in good shape, or, that's the number I wanna see.
Yep, and that was 366,000. And I just want to confirm after month end that the transfer got done correctly.
I'm sorry,
The current is 366,000, but I want to make sure that at month end the transfer got done correctly before giving you that final number.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Make sure it got transferred to the right.
I
We had a
think
transfer.
I think you and I are on a different page, different pages.
That's the general fund,
No, I'm not interested in
You are.
what our,
3.7 million,
pardon?
3.7 million.
That's what you feel is gonna be the ending balance, June 30th,
If everything was
2022.
21,
I want 22.
I don't know how to do 22.
21 would be this next year, this budget you're
you're
working on
talking
right now.
fiscal year 2021, but it will be ending in,
Well,
end of June of 20.
we're working on the 2022, 21, 2022 budget.
No, we're not, we're the 2021.
Yeah. 2021.
That's the budget we're in right now.
You're talking another year down the road.
Right, that's the budget that's the budget we're getting all of these
Well,
requests
we
for.
don't know that for 22 yet.
You should have an idea of where we're at, that's why we,
I would think that'd be pretty hard to figure.
I mean, that's all of these budget requests that every department has asked for. We should be able to here shortly know exactly how much money everybody's requesting for 2021, 2022.
No, it's 2021.
It's 2021.
2021.
No,
You're talking another year down
Yeah,
the road.
yes, I understand
But
that,
we're
that's,
not
But then-
working
but
on
all
those
of this
budgets
is
till a year
2021.
from now.
no,
Yes, you are.
we're in
You're ahead of
2000,
yourself.
Yeah, Stan, that
Yeah, yeah.
seems
Okay.
to be a year
2020, 2000, all right, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But
This is
So that's-
2020.
Okay, so June 30th of 2021 then.
3.7 million, but I want it, 3.7 million, but I wanna make sure that the transfer was done, which we should know for sure, what is it, Monday?
And does that include, like, we have 500,000 of TIF money for, like the Otrano Dam, is that separate? I mean, that isn't in the carry, in the balance, at ending balance, because that's a designated fund, is that correct?
Yeah,
So that's above and beyond the designated,
yeah.
okay, I'm sorry. Yeah,
okay, all right.
so I mean, that is a healthy balance then,
Yeah,
very healthy.
and I can confirm once month end, but I just wanna I haven't been here for doing the transfers for month end, so I wanna make sure it's done right first,
Sure,
so.
Do you want her to, come back next week just to double check, or just tell
no,
us?
I mean, that's close, I mean, that gives us an idea of where we're at, that.
Only if it's way different.
Okay.
Because, I mean, if we were at, you know, basically 300,000, 500,000, and we need 300,000 each month to operate on, and we normally don't get our funds in until August, you know, we have to have a certain amount of balance to carry us July, August, as the taxes come in.
Okay, thank you.
So, no, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, we'll go back to, number 8, consideration of Mitchell County Hospital request.
Well, thank you for the time on your agenda, and you had asked us to come back with what the amount might be to demo the daycare building, and we're happy to report. In the short time we had Mike Cervantes do an RFP, so we got proposals. And the original proposal that we had, I mean, it was just something that the hospital had asked for from one of the contractors, and they had come back with $72,800, I think. And so anyway, we're happy to report that the lowest proposal, I didn't say bid, proposal that we got back was $64,800. And so, and then in addition, of course, we had put money into, you know, the derelict building grant. I mean, you know, we invested some money in that we think is part of the demo project, simply because we were planning on going that way. But I'm glad we backed off, because that gives you an opportunity, and yours was a much bigger project anyway than ours, you know. But anyway, the low one that came in was $64,800. And so we would be asking for half of that.
And then I just wanted to share too, so I think Betty talked about this the last time too, which was when we were originally planning on purchasing the daycare, you can see I highlighted that section there, that our original plan was only to purchase bare land. It was never to purchase the building. And so, we had worked with Brenda Dreyer and Jennifer Andrade on that at the time as well.
So 64.8, half of that, gonna be 32.4.
Right.
And originally you asked us for 25,000, maybe 30.
No, we're asking for the $32,400.
You know, no, I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what you said last time. You talked about 25 to 30.
Oh, we didn't have any idea last time what it would be. We said anywhere, you know, we'd heard anywhere at one point, one of the contractors, who we never heard back from, had said depending on what we did, whether it was a derelict building grant or whatever, or what, you know, it could be anywhere from $55,000 to $70,000, you know, so.
What did the city of Osage say? When-
They're taking it under consideration. We didn't have a price for them. I mean, you know, you said to have it by today, and it was a rush for the contractors to get back to us by today. So anyway, we're taking that up to the city. And I see Judy is here.
I'd like to hear how the city's gonna come out with this.
Their indication before, and talking to the mayor, and Shelley had talked to Kathy Penny, right? And they indicated that there would probably be the money for it, but, you know, that was their thought. That wasn't the city council. I'm not speaking for them.
Well, we can table it a week if that's what you want.
I would prefer to find out, yeah. what's
Well,
going
I
on.
don't know when we're gonna find out from them.
Well, they,
Table it until we find out.
I mean, they do meet, next Monday unless they change it because of the caucus.
And I mean, I told them I wouldn't be there next Monday because of the caucus, but, yeah.
I think I'll announce that right now. The Press News had the wrong date. They have it down for Tuesday on the 4th, and it is, anybody who's listening, it's the 3rd on Monday. And you do have to be there by 7, you cannot be late.
So then,
Okay.
we are tabling
So
this
can you
until
come
we have
back next
further
week? Would
information.
that work okay? Or after, or whenever you've talked with city council. I don't know if you're gonna be on the agenda yet next week or not.
We'll have to try down the agenda.
Okay, and then just let Lowell know when you wanna come back.
And I don't know if they make up their mind by then, because after you take the amount back, then they have, different committees that meet and they bring it back to the council after that, so I don't think they'll, isn't that right, Judy?
Right, and none of the committees have met for any of the issues
So,
that came up.
so they wouldn't know by next
Not
week,
to my knowledge.
no.
Yeah, well, you can just let us know when.
So I think it'd be a couple weeks before you,
That's
you know.
fine. Okay.
Shelley, do you have your letter of support that I asked for?
I mailed it.
Oh, okay, we haven't got it.
Yeah, I
yet.
emailed you and said we had mailed it last week. Or I can email it to you if you prefer.
Yeah, if you would. Okay,
Okay, so we've got that in mind, 32-4.
Thank you.
All right.
well, thank you
Okay.
kindly.
You bet.
Foster grandparent, are you, okay, this spokesperson?
I brought an additional, just kind of sheet about our program.
Uh-huh.
Basically, we serve those who are 55 and older. They work in the schools and the daycares. The whole purpose of the foster grandparent program is to create mentoring relationships, do tutoring, provide
Thanks, ladies.
help with reading, writing. For our young people, we're helping them to become better individuals. They're making friendships. Currently, we have 7 grandparents in Mitchell County who directly affect 133 students. They indirectly affect quite a few more because, you know, when a grandma comes in the room, everyone wants to hug grandma, everyone wants to read with grandma. But we only track about 5 to 6 kids or so per grandparent. And we actually just signed on St. Anne's for school, so we're in the process of recruiting teachers there and we'll start finding volunteers. We are asking for $1,000 in support of the foster grandparent program, which will go towards supporting just general in-service trainings, maybe giving the new grandparents new uniforms, or even helping with just marketing in the St. Ansgar area.
Well, I think it's a wonderful program. I guess a lot of sort of this type, we've been tending to give 500. I don't know what you guys think.
And honestly, at this time, 500 would be acceptable. It just shows that the county is supporting these grandparents, you know. We're just looking for that additional support to help specifically the Osage grandparents. This wouldn't cover the other grandparents in the other 3 counties. It would just specifically be for the Osage ones.
And for 7 of them, do you think that would cover a little bit of in-service?
It'll help with in-service trainings. It'll actually help us provide maybe a better speaker. We're hoping to find someone who will come in and talk about behaviors of children and how to deal with maybe conflicts, or how to deal with a child who maybe has trauma at home.
Which
and
I'm
how-
sure that's more and more.
It's a lot, yeah. So those are the kind of speakers we're trying to focus on this year to fill their toolboxes, so.
Well, again, our budget can afford $1,000. I think, working with these young kids, I really feel that, there is a very good need to work with some of these younger kids. And, again, like I say, our budget can afford it, I would, throw it in the mix for 1,000. I mean,
Steve,
What's your
what's your
opinion, Steve?
opinion? I guess I mentioned 500.
I'd go along for 500. You can always raise it in the future.
Right.
Yep. Nope, and I mean, we would appreciate 500, you know, we're a nonprofit that, you know, we count every penny, so that makes a difference, so, yeah.
Okay,
Our
and
program
we all agree it's a good program. Okay, so we throw it in with our other ones and to see where we come out with budget wise and stuff, and so, and then what's the procedure, Lowell? Do you let them know, or?
And then it would be after July 1st.
Yep, okay, perfect.
All right.
Thank you
Thank you for your
guys.
time.
Thank you for coming in.
And what is your name?
My name is Sarah Merrifield, I am
Oh,
the
the one
director.
we got
Yeah,
the original letter from.
that's me, yep.
Okay,
All right, thank you all.
you bet.
Thank you, Sarah.
did we get a request from Kathy Falk?
Didn't get that till yesterday, so that'll be probably next week, or
Oh,
unless
for
you
St.
wanna
Anne's
discuss
Fair.
it, put it in with the rest, yeah, for 500.
Do we
That's
need,
something
do we
you-
need to
that's
discuss it
something
even?
you- I don't think so, it's something that you've done in past years, so.
We could throw it in with other 99s?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, and then we've got, City of McIntyre request.
That is on taxes.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, remind us. Okay, City of McIntyre is asking that the taxes due in the amount of $1,293 be written off. This is, bill is for the Sloan property in McIntyre. This is like from way back to 2011 that they haven't been paying?
Well, that would have been back when Mr. Sloan was the owner of it, I'm sure.
Oh, what do you guys think on this? I guess I'm not sure why we're responsible.
Well,
We're the body that can defer or
You can
delete
abate
them
them or suspend, you can abate them, or
And basically, I mean, we would be debating the school portion, the hospital portion, and everything else. I mean, if we abate, so it isn't that much for our, whatever, we would be abating all of those, just like anybody else's taxes.
And why do you think we should abate it?
because it's a city. See, cities don't pay tax, property
Okay.
tax.
Oh, and since okay, gotcha.
I believe we abated them, so, I mean, for Osage different times.
We didn't have any this last year.
Not this last year, but we have abated them for Osage and
You
that.
either
so-
abate or suspend
But-
regarding,
was this,
this would be,
was this property the cities of McIntyre's clear back in 2011?
I doubt it.
No, that's why the taxes were being paid on it, or supposed to be collected on it.
Okay. I guess I didn't
So
quite
then I think
understand all
probably
that.
The treasurer put it into a tax certificate, tax sale.
And nobody wants it.
Well, we paid for half of its demolition. Didn't we give enough? You know, that's my thought. I mean, they should be able to be responsible for the taxes anyways, which is just something to think about.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys gonna move to do anything?
If not, then I'll let Harlan know that, that was denied.
I would have no problem abating them. Like I say, we've done it before.
Okay, these are, I mean, these are fairly small amounts. Why haven't they been doing it all along?
Might be something you wanna ask the treasurer about. Table it a week.
Do you mind tabling it, and I'll try to find out a little more information?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Let's move on.
Stanley, you wanted to say something on the county care?
Yes, that was gonna be our slip-in after 11.
Yeah, I've been, excuse me, been making, I think, some progress on, trying to get that demo. Again, the grant, is basically, only for 2 counties in Iowa that would qualify, otherwise why, it has to be a city that, applies for the grant. We have, basically, the low bid for asbestos removal came in at around 37,500. The same for, basically demolition of the building, around 37,500. That did not include, backfilling, the hole. And I did talk to Lindsay Falk yesterday, and Lindsay would have material out of the pit, whatever 2 miles east here in number 9, that he would sell us for at a very reasonable price, just a little over the cost of loading or whatever else, and it's estimated about 1,400 cubic yards of fill would be needed, and like I say, and I can get all of these figures put together and apply for the amount of money. One of the issues that came up is that our insurance would not cover the liability if the city of Osage owned the property for that certain amount of time. And so I got talking to Judy Funk, and Judy said, well, why are you even insuring that building anymore? There's no windows, there's no doors in it. And she said if we submitted a letter to her requesting that the windows and doors were already gone by the last July, we could get a $325 rebate. And so I asked Lowell to do it, and he did. And so we should be getting that rebate.
I got a quick question. What about liability?
Yeah.
Well,
If somebody gets hurt out there?
we still got liability on the property.
Okay.
It's,
That's all I wanted to know.
it was a $100,000 replacement of the building, is what we took off of it.
Okay. So we would still have it?
Yeah,
so
we
got
still
her
have
out.
whatever.
Okay.
And so then, but what we can do is we can find out what it would cost the city of Osage to have liability on that piece of property for the time that we were demolishing. And I talked to Kathy Penny, and she gave me permission to talk to their insurance agent. And their insurance agent should have a quote today, but she estimated it would probably be no less than $100 for the liability insurance. And so that way the city of Osage would be covered, not at their cost, our cost. And again, this grant has to be in by the 20th of February. I wasn't aware that actually NICOG writes a bunch of these grants every year. And apparently they didn't have one this year, but Joe Myrie was very familiar with it. For $500, they would have wrote it. And, but I will have.
And Tony actually offered to write it, if you had.
Well, like I say, I have no problem with trying to write it. That's not a problem. But Joe said he would look it over before we sent it in.
We can keep that in mind in the future, because Tony, I don't think we would even get charged.
Well,
Tony did it.
no, that's,
Something to keep in mind.
yeah. So in any event, that's where we're at. I mean, if you have no problems with going forward with it, why,
As long as we got that liability and, yeah. And, well, and it works out with the city, okay?
Yeah. So.
And
that's-
you said you got permission from the grant people that this is A-okay to do this.
Yep,
I don't wanna do anything underhanded.
no, they understood it. I mean, what we need is a letter explaining again that, that is our intent before the 1st of July to transfer the ownership and.
Okay, that was what I wanted to question, the letter. Now, should that, why just me? Shouldn't all our names be on something like that?
You're the chair.
Yeah, but why can't all
We,
of them?
we've always done it. I mean, the chair signs.
Okay,
Sure,
cause I guess I talked with showed some other people and they're like, well, shouldn't that be the auditor or?
No, you're the chair. That's where you get the big bucks.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yep, keep doing what you're doing.
All right, meetings attended. Sorry, guys, mine is long, longer than usual. North Iowa Community Action in Mason City. Joel led the meeting, filling in for Ms. Greenman. Each time we meet, we discuss a few more of our services, explaining what they cover and serve. For example, we talked about this month, I Smile dental services for kids, and I noticed we only had 39 kids served in Mitchell County, which was a lot less than the others, so I questioned that, and they said that's because 40% of the kids must be on hot lunch program to qualify, and so actually that's a good thing that we don't have as many with poverty level needs. Another that was discussed was WIC, and they actually use cards now that are swiped at the grocery store, and it shows exactly what's left to spend and on what. We discussed many goals for the year, such as they want to achieve more volunteer activities, as in volunteering for Meals on Wheels, Head Start, and other classroom activities. Community volunteers needs will probably be to help Floyd County. Apparently they're having a real problem with childcare needs. Agency goals were to network better between programs and make sure that the staff is more aware of any new people coming on. Concerning raises, and a committee reached out to the supervisors, and the general consensus of raises were 2.5%. Cindy Davis shopped around and found Chase and Capital One both had, for credit cards, 1.5% back, and so they were the best deals. And their old card, they have a lot of points built up, and so they're gonna use that money for computers. County Social Services in Cresco, we covered 25 areas of action needed on the agenda. And we discovered glitches that have come up with the transition of the one employer due to two counties, well, mainly because of Floyd County, apparently they paid their employees ahead. And so that kind of messed everything up, but they have it all figured out, and they don't recommend that they do that way anymore. Auditors everywhere said, don't do that. Marcia Eltroji, a provider rep, gave a handout on ways to get hold of the medicine. Actually that Noxicone that I gave to the sheriff earlier, that it actually can be used for HIV too, I believe. I could be incorrect on that. Let's see, we voted Prairie View in Fayette to reduce how many live there from 50 to 16. This was basically to concentrate on those with schizophrenia that are in our area, to concentrate on our area people rather than the whole state. And this will enable us to bill to Medicaid, which we couldn't before due to too many living there. It is a 2 to 3, sometimes up to 6 day stay, And mainly, the kids that end up staying there longer, it's because they're having trouble finding housing for them. Their goal with this program is to get people back into the community. And until the extra people find places to be or get on Medicaid, we'll cover this group, and then that'll be the last time. Another plus is less people in one place results in less calls to law enforcement. We decided rather than going to each county, we would meet now in Mason City each time. That'll save on quite a bit of mileage for us. I'm going to read and give Lowell, I'll give you this when we're done, Lowell. It's just talking about to standardize our reimbursement of occupancy. This has to do with how they're going to reimburse us for the office space. So it's probably not really important I read, but make sure Lowell's available. Or do you guys want me to quick read it? It's not too long. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
To standardize our reimbursement of occupancy costs, the following formula is proposed. CSS will calculate the occupied space in our county-owned facilities. The auditor will calculate the total occupied space in the building, excluding common areas and restrooms, etc. And the auditor will then calculate the percentage of the CSS occupies in the building and use this percentage to bill CSS in any identified building expenses. CSS will reimburse occupancy twice a year or annually, so I guess you can choose that, Lowell, which you prefer. Bills must be submitted before July 31st for the previous fiscal year, and capital expenditures, of course, must have prior approval. Costs must be variable, and we did go ahead with that. Okay, Winishek brought up a discussion again on the levy, and we've actually lowered, surprisingly, the levy even more, from 34 to 30, and it won't really change the county, the 22 county social service budget, and we still have $8 million left in that budget for extras such as children's mental health. There was a lot of discussion on this, and it had 12 yes and 7 no for those attending. Heartland Insurance I went to in Tama. Well, we didn't go to Tama because of the weather. We lucked out and had a teleconference. I think I'll get fairly brief. Workman's comp was set at 3.5%. But they said we should really check with our auditors, and so I talked with Lowell and Judy, our Heartland rep, and we lowered ours to 3%, but then I think there's another letter, and that might be different yet. Judy just sent out some email, I'm not sure, you'll want to peek at that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I saw that.
We were given 3 renewal projections, and we approved the middle one as far as cost-wise. And we were given a list of special acceptance premiums, of which our Mitchell E911 and the EMA are listed under those special acceptance premiums, just so you're aware. We, along with 9 other counties, have been receiving reduced premiums, resulting in credits of, I'm not sure how many years, over the past several years, of over $7 million. Our county buildings' property values will not go up until we are done with the service building. And Heartland works hard that we don't have to ever pay more than a 5% increase. Okay, Van Buren had higher claims for hail last year, so we share that burden. And that may not seem fair, but actually it really ends up really good because they divide it up among all the 10 counties, and this is fine because if we have a high claim, they're going to help us, such as when we had the fire at the landfill, everybody had to chip in and help pay for that, even though it wasn't their burden. We were given an update for our employee handbook on background checks for the motor vehicle record reviews. I passed this on to Renee, and Lowell. And I believe I made sure, I want to say I talked with Amy on this, that I made sure that our property values are close to Gallagher's estimates. And then I had an economic development meeting last night, and I checked with why we were paying $500 to home-based Iowa, because we weren't really doing anything with this. And this is one that helps veterans get jobs. Well, it turns out they've been doing it for years, so Tony wasn't sure either what it was. And it turns out that we donate to help, $500 to help veterans to get jobs in Iowa. Matt Pitson's loan from us was approved. He wanted to up his loan, as every single thing that he had estimate has come in much more. And we'll be presenting, I guess Tony mentioned that, housing surveys to city councils from Nyakog so they can better serve us. Rick Bodensteiner will move up from vice to chair, and Mark Jensen is our vice chair. And Roger Heeman will be the new rep for Stacyville, replacing Amanda Adams.
My turn? I had a long-term, North Iowa Long-Term Disaster Recovery Committee meeting. It was held at Charles City in the library in the disaster room. It was called to order, approved the agenda. We had introductions, and we had an update on the 501c3. We are chartered and incorporated. We will have the 501c3 in 3 weeks. This is something new that started. That's why we're just starting from scratch. Old business, our bank option discussion was a follow-up with the First Citizens Bank. And before we could go any further, we need the 501c3 first to set up banking, so that's on hold. Iowa Disaster Human Resource Council membership discussion. Steve O'Neill says they've got the packet and they'll get that started on membership. Upcoming events, the MARC training, which is February 6th at the Salvation Army in Mason City, and this will be on how to set up a one-stop shop in the event of a disaster. It'll make the survivors an easier way to get information after an event of a disaster. And the Red Cross will be the facilitator. New member recruitment. It was discussed that 4 are interested, and that's as far as it went, but it is also power is in numbers, so they said get out and push for new members, so that's one thing we have to do is get more people involved in this for this to work. Anyways, we had open discussion, nothing was said. Our next meeting was going to be in Cerro Gordo, April 21st. And again, this North Iowa Long-Term Disaster Recovery Committee consists of Mitchell, Floyd, Worth, and Cerro Gordo counties. So, and I had a Valent meeting last Friday. Really didn't say a lot other than they discussed about Pops pushing in the water line under the dirt, pushing it in, and then once they push the small pipe through, then they pull the main water line in. It's quite an interesting thing. Other than that, that is my meetings. Stan.
And the one meeting I had last week was on Thursday with, both Tony and I attended that, Cerro Gordo County, Economic Development Forum, or whatever you wanna call it, where,
Chamber of Commerce.
pardon?
Is it Chamber of Commerce?
Or Chamber of Commerce, I guess they were the sponsor, but talking about economic development and what's been happening in Cerro Gordo County. Debbie Durham was the main speaker. They had a good slide presentation on where they're strong, where they're weak, basically, again, the two areas that they were really trying to concentrate on is housing and workforce. They know that, again, our workforce average age is considerably higher than the national and even the state. And so that's a big concern that, if memory serves me correct, the national workforce average was like 38 or something. We're at 43 or a few years older
Okay,
than
I'm
on the
not
average.
surprised, I guess.
And so, again, that's one of the areas that we're gonna have to be trying to work on and to get, to keep more people here and to attract new ones. And so, all of these things, you know, basically connect, the dots do connect. I mean, the videos will connect and so on and so forth. So I think we're making some progress. It takes time, it's not gonna happen overnight. But at least as long as we're aware of what the issues are, why we can plug away and again, I know I've mentioned this before, but that's why I really feel what happens here in Mitchell County with county conservation and their recreational opportunities, that helps to keep a lot of our industries here as long as those workers have things to do once they're done with work. I mean, that's one thing, again, that employees take a look at. What does there do for me when I'm, you know, after the job? And so I'm really happy with what's been happening with county conservation and that, so. That's me anyway.
Okay, am I allowed to go back at this point? There was some stuff I wanted to address on the letter.
You're the chair.
Okay, we're going back. I totally forgot, on your letter, okay, I would recommend that you don't put two gentlemen, because there's a woman in there, I know
Well,
on
the
that.
reason being that that was always a standard, even though it is mixed, whatever, that's a standard,
No, we need to think of a different way to put it.
Well,
They
I
don't do
can
that
do that.
anymore.
well, I do.
And then, the last sentence in the first paragraph, participating in this program will assure adequate funding to complete the demolition and restoration of the area. Would they rather see a sentence saying that it would,
Future housing site.
well, something that shows that we have some skin in the game? Would they rather that? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's obvious because it's a 50-50 grant up to a certain amount of money. I mean, that's part of the form that you fill in that shows how much the DNRs we're requesting from the DNR. And
I'm just trying to think of a different way to word that, so it doesn't sound like we're relying on just them for the money. You know what I mean?
well, participation though means that
That's what I was trying to add.
that there's more than just them into the program.
Okay, all right. I'm kind of just so on that. Kathy Penny is with a C, not a K.
Okay,
And then she has, Penny is N-E-Y. It is the two N's, but
Well, wait.
P-E-N-N-E-Y.
okay, C-A,
Mm-hmm, T-H-Y, yeah, just a C instead of the K.
okay.
And then Penny, you need another E in there.
Okay,
And then you can, have me sign that before you leave today if you want.
well, I have this on my home computer, so I'll have to
Okay,
bring it
we'll get
in.
it. Okay, let's, well, and then I wanted to give you one, it's probably not necessary I even give you this, Lowell, because I see from Bob, for County Social Services, he was gonna be sending you, he said Monday, an email on it, so I don't know if you need to even know that. Okay, manure management updates.
Okay, yeah, so Cooper Hawk Site 2 LLC, 2069 Highway 218 Osage. Cooper Cattle, 1980 410th Street Osage. McIntyre Finisher Farm at 4752 Lancer Avenue. Newburgh Pigs, there's no address, section 29 of Newburgh Township, and Right Way Incorporated, 3380 Walnut Avenue, Elma. And did we see there's going to be a new confinement building going up under the name Burns. There'll be a master matrix with that, so we'll be getting notified by the DNR when that'll take place.
Or that be Kevin?
I think so. It's over in Jenkins Township, so it'll be over by Riceville. So there is a plan upstairs just received in the last couple days.
Okay. And then, well, before you go upstairs, I want to make some copies of this Stacy McIntyre thing, and then I'll give it back to you.
All right.
New fund, review fund balances.
Rachel, yes.
Oh, yeah. We already got all that done. Okay.
Clerk report.
And the clerk report, we've got right here in front of us. I see no problems, nothing different or out of line.
So noted.
So noted, thank you. And I believe we've covered everything.
Nope, you gotta go in the back.
Oh. Oh, yeah, discuss S&P ratings.
Next Tuesday, Lisa Cool will be coming from Northwood to participate with that. She has got that set up for 11 o'clock. She's going to come early, and she's requesting that the Board of Supervisors also be a part of this. Also be Rachel and myself. That's Tony. I've asked the treasurer and the assessor to also be available, so when we have a conference call, that different questions, and I emailed you what that was regarding.
Now this will,
And this is for that,
this
for
will
the
bump that,
refinancing.
this will bump that meeting that you talked about on February 11th then? Or is that another meeting?
No, February 4th.
Okay,
At
yeah,
11.
you mentioned one time February 11th workshop for rating. I wrote that down.
Oh,
Yeah, I
you're-
have it down too.
It's the 4th at 11.
It's the same
Okay,
thing.
so
Not
I can scratch this
Yeah.
one out. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, the one thing that I thought we ought to be discussing before next Tuesday was, and I didn't go through the whole thing real carefully, but one of the questions was, in the next 2 years, do you anticipate any additional debt? And again, with our TIF and with our financial advisor saying that we should really be taking on another project or two because of, we want to fully utilize all of the TIF monies available. We should have that discussion before next Tuesday.
Well, I'm probably only gonna look at, for this year, having to do with the road department. Personally. Steve, did you have
Have
anything?
that thought.
And that's a maybe.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a guaranteed thing, but I mean, we shouldn't be having a long discussion next week. I mean, we should have that fairly worked out before.
Yeah, I think it's just you can answer questions. It isn't like you're gonna be having a real long presentation on it. You're just gonna have to answer their questions.
That was in 3 pages.
Yep,
Yep.
S&P Global.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe what we answer is there's a possibility that we want to do something with secondary roads.
And if there's things we don't know, we just say, we'll check into that and provide that later. I
Okay.
think it's just idea is to make a positive.
I mean, Jeff has said we
You're
could
not
spend
necessarily
up to,
committed.
Jeff said, I mean, we could easily spend up to 5 million if we said we maybe would look at, up to 1 million. I mean, that's only 20% of whatever, so I mean, it's not a,
Yes, I'm aware.
I mean, it's not a huge amount of, that would, I think, really affect our bond rating, in all, any negative.
Okay, well, we'll probably be here that morning. We'll make sure we're here at 11.
I'll have it posted as a workshop.
Okay. All right, any public comments on anything?
I was just wondering, what are you gonna do with the county home property?
We haven't discussed that all that much. We have thrown a few things out there. I know, Stan, maybe you want to answer that.
There's actually, my understanding, there's 2 deeds upstairs or whatever, that, there's the front part of it that takes in the few acres that, where the, county care facility itself was the barn and so on and so forth, the well. And then the back part, has been, overseen, managed and that by county conservation, for the last 19 years that I've been on the board. And so, we would be only looking at that very front part. We wouldn't be looking at, and Adam is working on, trying to, have that back part of, a mitigation, what do you wanna call it? Mitigation restoration or whatever, where, you have a wetland in some area that, I wanna, and that could bring in, I guess, over $1 million to the county if that was properly done. And so he's waiting right now on some Army Corps of Engineers studies and so on and so forth, but that's moving forward. What we have discussed, again, is probably building lots. That's what's gonna go into the grant. But we have not determined whether we should try to just sell it as 1 parcel, 2, 3, if we should, we have not had that, I mean, we've kicked around the idea that we could parcel it out, but we haven't discussed it any further than that.
Someone made a comment that we should have it perk tested to see
Yeah,
how
I
the
heard that too.
sewer systems may work in the future out there.
Might be
Because
wise.
if it doesn't pass the perk test,
Right.
it's pretty hard to flush the toilet.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that term. How do you spell that?
Perk test?
Pert?
PERK.
That's all it is?
PERK.
Oh, I thought they said pert.
Perk.
And I'm like, what's that? Gotcha.
I have one more question, like after the asbestos is removed, couldn't you bury it on site, a lot cheaper than hauling it away?
Well, if it does go to housing, that wouldn't work very well for the future
I don't know
owners.
how big a,
And maybe somebody would come up with a different idea that they wanted for, commercial or industrial. I mean, that, it isn't necessarily locked in stone, but, right now, nobody has made any other proposal, but that, I mean, could be a possibility where you just pour a slab and,
Yeah, it's not that far out.
no. And I mean, with the hard surface road, why, that's a more desirable lot than a lot of places.
Right.
The options haven't been really set in stone as to what's going on.
We want to get rid of the building first and then just,
I can see why you'd want to know. Okay, anybody else? Okay, meeting adjourned.